it just seems very intense. You're listening to Living Inside Out podcast, and I'm your host, Tokes Arotere. This is episode 103. I am super excited to chat with you today, and I'm going to be talking about overcoming hidden burnout and rediscovering motivation. And as usual, this comes from a personal experience, my personal story. So I hope that by the end of this podcast episode, you will have discovered that thing that has been draining you and you don't have the word for yet. How have you been? I hope you have been well. My thoughts around this time of the year is hurry up and be December already, because if I had to describe 2024 so far, I'm going to say that it was all shades of wonderful and many shades of terrible. Maybe terrible is too strong a word, but honestly, that is how I feel. At this stage, end of October, that's where I'm at. No one knows what tomorrow holds. Well, no one knows what November's going to hold. And I really do hope it's going to be positive. It's a strange one for me because when I look ahead, I see amazing things on the cusp of happening for me. I see things are finally looking up. I have so much to be excited about, a couple of things to be excited about, but the level of excitement, the value of what's about to happen is enough for me to say it's like so many things going on that are great. But at the same time, the space I'm in right now remains unnerving, it remains uncertain, and it's still a bit questionable. So it's like having two very different and opposing emotions at the same time. I've got expectation and I've got dread at exactly the same time, and they're not really exactly cancelling out each other. I just have moments when I'm very positive and moments when I'm not, but I guess that's what life is. Life is not a straight line, as we already have discussed on this podcast in the past, and it's normal to have ups and downs. Enough about me. How have you been? What have you been up to? How have you found 2024 so far? I want to say thank you for listening today, for tuning in. I want to thank you for subscribing. For if you have subscribed already, thank you so much. If you haven't subscribed, please do. It's a little thing that you need to do, which is just to click the subscribe button wherever you're listening, whether it's on YouTube or Spotify or Apple or any of those wonderful platforms. It's a small thing, but it makes a huge difference. I went on hiatus for a while and then came back, and I felt like I needed a break after 100 episodes and just really needed to revisit and make sure that my intention was still very much aligned and I hadn't gone off track, and also wanted to find a way to make it even better. So I had that break, and what happens when you're recording a podcast and you're not a big name is that when the recording stops, the listenership drops. And so now we're starting all over again, and I really would appreciate you sharing and recommending and reviewing and subscribing. And if you have never listened to Living Inside Out before, thank you so very much for listening, for tuning in. Let me know how you found out about us. I really would love to get to know you better, hear more about your opinion, what you thought about this episode, and I really hope that you would love it enough to share it with somebody else. One person or two people. That's it. So, burnout. I don't know about you, but I feel like this season we're in, which to me feels like the start of the pandemic till now, has been one long season with many different things going on at the same time in that season. It just seems very intense. It feels like we don't recover from one thing before we jump into another. And it just feels like the world is spinning. A little bit like it's spinning out of control, but it's just spinning, So much is happening that we can't catch our breath. I'm open to the possibility that maybe I'm just getting older and I can't, my priorities have changed and I'm no longer as locked into trends and what's happening today like I used to be when I was younger. I would love that to be the case, but even when I speak to younger people, it's the same. And number one on my list has got to be AI. I love ChatGPT. I love AI. As a matter of fact, this next couple of weeks, I'm dedicating to researching how I can implement it better in my business, because I know that I would be making a killing if I can do it well, if I can do it properly. But first, I've got to learn and understand and see what's out there. So I'm not knocking it at all, but I feel like it's ushering us forward at a pace that we're not really prepared for. The knowledge, the ability of this thing to and the thing that it does, or that they do, the various programs do, are mind-blowing and positive when you think about the fact that it saves time and all of that. But I fear that it's taken our humanity away. So yesterday there was some downtime on ChatGPT, and I use it for everything, okay, especially at work. I send emails, I use it to draft emails to customers or suppliers or what have you, just anything, especially when it's not a quick one, or if I'm dealing with a difficult situation. I had a customer a few weeks ago that we just had this long drawn out situation with this customer, and it just wasn't going anywhere. And I got to the end of my tether and I typed up a really firm email and I put it in ChatGPT to check for errors, because that's what I normally do. I'd write it and I'll put it, I'll say, is this clear? Check for errors. Is it flowing? Oh, doesn't it tell me that that's not appropriate for my business? Like, considering the I can almost hear its voice. Considering what was the word it used? Considering the prestigious nature of the baby cut shop, that's not an appropriate email to send. I will reward it. I'm like, okay, thank you very much, sir. And it did, and it's helpful. So I use it a lot. And there was a blackout. I don't know if it was a blackout, but when I went up down detector, I was not the only person with issues there. It wasn't working. And I had a moment where my heart skipped a beat and I thought, no, I can't go back. I can't go back to life before this day, okay? But my point is that we are evolving as humans because we have to catch up with the machine. And that's a little bit worrying. I remember when smartphones came out and they were saying how smartphones and even the internet, and it's supposed to save us time. And yes, it did save us time, because now you're not sending letters through the post office, you're sending emails, and you can call people, you can send a text, and things had sped up, or time had been shrunk. But the problem now was that with the time we saved, we stuffed more things into it, and our brains can only take in so much. Okay, and so it's already taking in a fixed amount of information every day. And then you shrink that information. You don't reduce the amount, you just shrink the time in which it's being processed. Then you feed even more into the brain and it gets too much. And I feel like that's happening now. It's like we are saving so much time. We are so excited about all the changes that are going on. And I feel, burnout is inevitable. That definitely happened to me. And I'm not putting it all on the changes in technology. A lot of it is actually me, because the truth is, burnout happens when you don't set boundaries for yourself. And I didn't set boundaries. Or if I did set boundaries, I totally ignored them. It's defined as a state of chronic physical and emotional exhaustion caused by prolonged and excessive stress, often from work or caregiving responsibilities. It arises when one feels overwhelmed, emotionally drained, and unable to meet constant demands. Over time, burnout can lead to feelings of helplessness, detachment, reduced motivation, and even physical health issues, impacting overall well-being and the ability to function effectively. Recognizing burnout early is key to taking steps to restore balance and health. Long definition, but it encapsulates it absolutely perfectly. And I can relate to everything that I've just read out. So physical and emotional exhaustion, that's one of the signs. You feel drained, you feel fatigued, you feel emotionally depleted, even after adequate rest. For a long time, I would go to bed and wake up feeling like I needed to go to bed. Like I'd wake up tired. It didn't matter how long I slept. I would wake up tired. Is this you? Do you feel that you have been drained recently, or you're feeling drained, or you're just feeling tired and fatigued? And the thing is, at my age, I was putting a lot of the fatigue down to perimenopause because there are a gazillion symptoms that are out there. And while I am not searching for them to attach them to my life, I began to think, hey, maybe that's what it is. But really, I was just burned out. Another sign is decreased motivation and productivity, and you struggle to complete tasks or even just to even get started. Zero motivation, thank you very much. Feeling ineffective and unaccomplished. I was really struggling, and when I say was, I'm still coming out of it. So it's a lot better now because of awareness. But I'm where it was previously was terrible. That's the only way I could describe it. Because it's one thing if you have zero ideas, or you don't have any plan, or you have zero intention. But it's another thing when you have all of your plans set before you, you're excited about the future, but you have no motivation to even start the simplest of things. That was me, feeling completely unmotivated. And it's only in recent times meaning the last couple of weeks, that my motivation level has really gone back up again. Today I struggled a bit. I think that was due to late nights. I've had a couple of late nights and I had a migraine. But I'm a lot better now. And if you're finding that you are demotivated, your productivity is shot, and nothing you do is actually being completed, you have zero desire, then there's a possibility that you might be burned out. Another sign is detachment and isolation, withdrawing from colleagues or family or friends, or feeling a sense of disconnect or cynicism towards work or personal responsibilities. This cynicism thing, definitely. Did not really withdraw from people. It's very hard for me to do that. I live in a house with 5 guys, and I am very close to my family and my friends. So detachment didn't happen for me, because if I tried it, they wouldn't let me anyway. However, I did feel I could recognize cynicism. And the reason I was able to recognize it from a distance even is because it's one of the elements that I have put into my course, my mindset mentoring course, as one of the mindsets that hold us back is cynicism. It's very subtle and it's sneaky, and you may not even recognize that you're in it, but only because I have identified it as an obstacle in my life in the past, and also in the lives of people that I work with. That's the only reason I recognize it. Otherwise, I would have been there questioning everything. And I'll give you an example. I received a message from an organization recently that I had been trying to establish a partnership with for a very long time. And when I saw the message, the first thought that crossed my mind is, somebody hacked the CEO's account and they are emailing me. That's cynicism. And when you think about it, it feels like it occurs to protect you. Almost like cynicism comes to question and put doubt on anything you're about to embark on, so you don't add even more to your plate. That's what it seems like. Irritability, frustration, easily irritated or frustrated over small issues, which can even lead to strained relationships. Now, I saw the irritation at work. I recognized that I needed to have an acid rain dance, which is a term I got from Lintola. And what that means is that I needed to wash away the remnants of very specific relationships that I'd had in the past, work relationships, because now I was now using that experience, that past experience that happened quite a while back, as a filter through which I was having new relationships at work. And I wasn't being myself and wasn't being warm, wasn't being kind, just wasn't I wasn't mean, but I just wasn't being as nice as I normally would be. And that was part of the irritation and the frustration from past experiences that spilled into this season. So I recognize now that I've got to divorce my past experience from my personality so that the person I am can continue to shine through. The fifth sign is difficulty concentrating and forgetting and having forgetfulness, struggling to focus, complete tasks, or remember details, which then adds to stress and a sense of overwhelm. This is 100% one of the signs that I had as well. I would not be able to sit still and concentrate for long periods of time. My excuse was, I have a lot to do, I have a lot on my plate. And that's the worst thing when you're burned out, is not giving language to your experience and just fobbing off to your emotions and fobbing off everything. That's the worst thing you can do, because it keeps you trapped in a cycle. Like you just keep on trying to come out of it, getting back into it, coming out of it, getting back into it. And what's happened is you're not acknowledging that this is unnatural for you, but you're explaining it away. And when you explain it away, it gives it the right to continue to stay in your space. I found that not giving language to our experiences or our emotions can be one of the most limiting ways to live. It wasn't until I mentioned actually in a previous episode that I had been experiencing burnout, and a few people sent me messages. Somebody said, you've just put language to what I was experiencing. Someone said, you've just described me. And I didn't know that's what it was because I didn't have the words to use. So I'm learning that language is so important in moving us forward. When you're having an experience that is not normal or common to you, sit back, don't just fob it off, but sit back and identify exactly what you're feeling and make sure you put a label to it, because it's only when it's been labeled that you can address it. So how can you get out of this? How did I get out of it? How am I getting out of it, more like? The first thing I did was I looked at what I was consuming, and I think I mentioned this a couple of weeks ago. Looked at what I was consuming physically and emotionally and mentally. What information was I absorbing into my mind? I don't watch the news, but often the news comes to me because it's very difficult to completely divorce yourself from the news, because you live in the world, it's everywhere. It comes to meet you on your phone, it heads into your email, your staff tell you about it, family mention it. So I began to watch what I'd been consuming, and I saw that there's some stuff that I was watching, some of it was movies that were just not very healthy for me. They were not bad, but they were not healthy. They were not helping me. So that was the first thing I did. Then I looked at my diet as well. Diet was high carbs, high salt, high fat, all very unhealthy, because I didn't establish a healthy diet to start with for myself. I just made a mental note not to eat too much because I didn't want to put on weight. But I could be having 6 chicken nuggets, for example, and call it healthy erroneously, purely because I'm only having 6 and I'm not eating anything else for the rest of the day. That was completely unhealthy. My body wasn't receiving the right nutrients, and it was just a whole mess. And so I looked at that, and then I researched some vitamins and supplements, and I started to take them. Then I got back into my exercising, walking on the treadmill, 30 minutes. I was trying to do 45. I'm not quite there yet. I do 45 once in a while, but the exercise certainly helped. So that's the first thing, is look at what you're consuming, look at your physical environment. So the food, the material, what you're reading. Oh, and there was one more thing I started to do, which is to start reading fiction every weekend. So Friday to Sunday, I'm reading fiction. Last weekend it didn't happen, but it's happened once or twice, and honestly, very liberating for me. The next thing is to prioritize rest and sleep. So I'm really blessed that I don't have trouble sleeping. Like once my head hits the pillow, I am gone, and I will sleep literally through till morning. So I'm so thankful to God for that. But there are activities we carry out that stop us from having a good quality of sleep, even if we do sleep through the night. So reducing the white light on your phone. My son grabbed my phone and he did something to it which I don't like, but and I had to take it off. He reduced the white light. Was it white light or blue light? I don't know. But it became kind of reddish in color, because whatever that light is, it's not good for the brain, and it keeps your mind working even when you're asleep. So for people who work in jobs or businesses that you are so excited, that you love, that you're invested in, you've got to now set that boundary of when work comes to an end, it does end, and allow life to start. Give yourself that space. And I had to say that because I find that my work is my hobby, which means that I'm working almost around the clock, and I don't have an issue with it, but it is unhealthy. So prioritizing rest and sleep, scheduling time for your nap. My bedtime is 9 o'clock. My wake up time is 4 in the morning. Doesn't always work out that way, but I have that as a guide. And then self-compassion is another one. Oh my goodness, that one, I think this is for everyone. Whether or not you're experiencing burnout, you need to learn to be compassionate to yourself. You need to learn to be loving to yourself. If you are in the habit of using bad words to describe yourself when you make a mistake, please stop. A phrase that I shared a few weeks ago was, I am learning. If you make a mistake, or you do something that you shouldn't have done, you were late for an appointment, or you sent the wrong email to the wrong person. Every time I go on Zoom and I'm in my private space, I get this thought: what if the Zoomers, Zoomers as in the people who own Zoom, somehow there's a glitch one day and it's saying that the video is off when it's not really off, or the audio is off when it's not off. That is something I get concerned about from time to time. It's just something that plays in my head. I don't really take it seriously, but I do. But there was a point I was supposed to be making. You make a crazy mistake, or you do something you shouldn't do, like get undressed in front of your Zoom camera during your work meeting. I pray that has never happened to you, and it will never happen to you in Jesus' name. If that were to happen, you don't call yourself names. You just go with, I'm learning. Give new meaning to it. I think our next episode, or next solo episode, I'll talk about giving new meaning to situations. And, be kind. Recognize that you need time to learn and get into new things. You're only human. You're not a machine. You're not meant to be perfect. It's okay to make mistakes. This is life. So practice self-compassion. And then connection with people. It's really important to connect with people. We are social beings. God created us to connect with people. We are not supposed to function on our own. The smartphone might tell us otherwise. Social media might tell us otherwise. AI and ChatGPT might say you're okay, you don't need anybody else, but those are all lies. We need people. I remember watching a documentary some time ago where they said that contactless payment was a ploy. And this was not a conspiracy theory, by the way. This was BBC. I don't remember what it was called, How It's Made or something. And contactless payment was deliberately done to, well, at least one of the reasons it was done was to reduce contact between the buyer and sales staff, because every time you get to the till and they're scanning your items, sorry, it wasn't contactless, it was self-checkout. That's what it was. Self-checkout was done to reduce contact between humans, so that when you go to the shop and you're self-checking out yourself, you miss the contact with other people, with the sales girl or the checkout girl, and it's going to lead you to go out more and spend money more. If I can find the information, I will share it with you, but it was quite a while ago. So the idea is that because we're social beings, and there are some people whose only contact with other humans is when they go shopping, when they're at the till at Sainsbury's or Tesco's and or ShopRite or Kroger's, and they are scanning and they're chatting with a checkout girl. That little bit of communication and contact is plenty for some people. And if that's taken away by replacing tills with self-checkout, then the buyers, the shoppers, will feel the need to go out more and spend more money because they want to communicate with people, or they just want to have that experience of being out there in a big place with lots of other shoppers. So I'm presuming it's true. Maybe it's not. I don't know. But either way, we are social beings. We are designed to connect with people. And if you find that you are, you've isolated yourself, or you've become so busy, or you think people are so busy that they don't have time for you, that is exactly the moment you need to reconnect with people and build relationships again. I had, what was it I went recently? Can't remember, but I had an event recently and I was out with a friend, and I just had such a wonderful time. And I nearly didn't go because I was like, I'd rather be at home reading a book, but I was so glad I went, and I met these new people. It was wonderful, because that's what we were created to do, to build relationships. We get their energy. Even if you're feeling down and you're feeling demotivated, you will be able to absorb some of the motivation of the people you're with. Obviously, there's a caveat here. Do not go on and hang out with people who are miserable and are also suffering burnout as well, because it's going to be hard to lift each other up. Just saying. So I want you to assess yourself, assess your life, and grab a piece of paper, score yourself 1 to 5, 1 being the lowest and 5 being the highest. What is your physical state like? What is your consumption like? Are you eating healthy? Are you eating your vegetables and your fruit and protein? Are you eating a lot of carbs and fatty foods and salty foods and sugars? Are you taking supplements? Have you done a blood test recently to see if you are lacking in anything like iron? I was lacking in iron, by the way, and I started taking iron tablets. And then assess your mental and your mind space. What are you thinking about? Your thoughts are a great indication as to what you're consuming. If you're constantly thinking about the challenges in the world and financial issues and this, that, and the other, a lot of it has to do with what you're consuming. We're all in the same world, but everyone's thinking differently because it all depends on what you're consuming. So reassess what you're taking in mentally, and then your physical environment, the people in your life. How are you even spending your day? And you can score all of these from a 1 to 5. 5 being, I really love where I'm at right now. This is amazing. And 1 being, I could do with some help, or I need to do better. Your space, is it cluttered? That's one area that is very energy draining, by the way. Is clutter literally sucks your energy. It's like the things that are all around your room or your home that don't belong, that are not in their right places, are just draining energy from you. And then look at your relationships again and assess those. Are there people in your space, even family members, whose calling, it appears, it would be that they are there to pull you down? Have a look through. And also, are you spending time with loved ones, with friends and people who can lift you up? I want you to identify one small change that you can make today in each of those areas. Now that you have your score, you know exactly where you need to work on. So begin to write down and brainstorm how you can counteract those areas. Do you need to reduce your intake of the news? Do you need to read the Bible more or read more motivational material? Do you need to shut down the noise? Because I mentioned clutter physically, but there is mental clutter as well. When your mind is cluttered, it makes it difficult to think. Do you need more space in your mind? Do you need to delete some of your activities every single day? Are you doing too much? Are you cooking and cleaning up after adult children when you don't have to? Are you being the savior in your extended family? So you want to make sure that you are looking at all of these areas and committing to making changes. You've only got the one life, it's not like we can come back and redo it to fix what we didn't do properly the first time. I hope this has been incredibly helpful for you and has at the very least got you thinking. And I want to thank you again for listening to Living Inside Out. I look forward to hearing your thoughts about this. All the links to everything, my website, my social media where I'd really love to connect with you, are all in the show notes. Have a lovely one.